What does a driver trainee need to know before he or she begins his or her training period with a trainer so as to save time and money? Hello, I'm Vicki Simons with TruckDriversMoneySavingTips.com, and tonight I'll be answering that question and also giving you some tips along the way. And let me start by saying that if you get value from this broadcast, please feel free to like it and share it, give little hearts along the way, and also we'd appreciate you being able to pass that along to others who are thinking about going into the trucking industry so that they are better prepared than Mike and I were. And that's part of the... Sometimes when on the website you may read that we had a bad experience during our truck driver training school or our truck driver training, or when we were out on the road either together or separately, or in the case where Mike was a training engineer or attempted to be with one company and ended up becoming one with a different company. Anyway, you'll find out that we have a wide range of experiences that we've talked about. Some of them are good and positive, and others of them just learn from our mistakes. Okay, so I'm going to start out by reading a story, a true account of what happened on, as written on our driver trainer page. This is when Mike was serving as a driver trainer or a training engineer with a professional a trucking company, a large southeastern trucking company. And we'll use the letters of the driver trainee's name, EW. He was from another country and had a decided accent. Prior to being placed with Mike, EW had been with another trainer within the company for 6 weeks. And when he asked that driver trainer questions, most of the time the trainer would answer, "I don't know." It became increasingly apparent to EW that his trainer did not know how to teach. The last 2 weeks he was with the other trainer, EW said the trainer started yelling at him, at which point EW began to shut down and wanted to do anything to get out of the truck. The company arranged for EW to train under Mike, my husband. People inside the company stated that they didn't want to lose EW because they had already invested a significant amount with him, and they asked Mike what he could do. So EW was with Mike for 2 weeks. Both he and Mike wished that they had been together from the very beginning because they had worked so well together. Mike answered his questions, and EW was a great trainee, but because of lack of sufficient quality training time with the first driver trainer, EW failed his road test and had to find employment somewhere else. How disappointing. So you get a situation where a driver wants to drive a Class A truck and is unable to do so. That's a waste. Okay, that his dream was shattered, and of course there's a possibility that what happened was he went to work with a trucking company that would allow him to drive, say, a Class B or Class C truck. But the thing about it is he really wanted to drive the big rigs. And the fact of the matter is, depending upon what driver training school he went to, he may have been given the information, the knowledge to be able to drive the big trucks, and so that particular amount of money that would have been the difference between the different types of trucks that he could have driven, that could have been wasted. So part of what I have written on the mutual expectations page on our website was about what it was that Mike came up with as a way to be able to make sure that both the driver trainer and the driver trainee have a good understanding of what is expected of each other. Okay, this information was completely missing from the training that both Mike and I received. I was trained under one particular driver trainer, and Mike was trained under another. My runs, the runs that my trainer did, were basically from the home base up to another state and back. It was an overnight type of thing, and then I was able to spend a night on the yard. But anyway, it was more of a dedicated run. Mike, when he was in training with this driver, basically he was out for a great number of weeks, and the driver trainer didn't really teach him much. So I'm going to be reading a little bit from this page on our website. When starting out in our training program, we didn't know exactly what to expect, primarily because there were no written guidelines, no mutual expectations discussed before our individual first trips, and no final evaluation standards, at least as far as we knew. And in retrospect, this lack of documentation did not inspire much confidence, and that's why we have written about this on the website, so that you will know if you are fixing to be going out on the road with a driver trainer, what it is that you need to know before you go out on the road. In fact, you might be better prepared than your driver trainer is, depending upon what preparation the driver trainer's trucking company has given him or her. Although we did not know how to express it as CDL students, we had an unwritten expectation of good training and an unwritten assumption that any training we received would be totally that would totally prepare us for real-world experience aside our entry into the trucking industry. So we reasoned that if we had received textbook training in the classroom in truck driver training school, driving time on the driving range, driving time on the road, and a certificate from an accredited school, why would we not be ready after training to drive a truck? Well, the training period is supposed to be the transition between being a student in a truck driver training school and being a full-fledged professional truck driver, right? Well, we feel that when a driver trainee completes school and is assigned to a trainer, there ought to be a plumb line or a standard that enables him or her to know exactly what will be evaluated and how. Okay, so the driver trainer should evaluate without bias or favoritism what a driver trainee should know before he or she is released to drive for a trucking company. And I'm not going to read absolutely everything on this page because it is rather long, but I'm going to talk about some of the high points. Okay, we were trained, how we were trained. To this day, Mike feels that his trainer was generally concerned about only one thing, and that was getting loads down the road so that he could make money. And frankly, that's a problem, and we address this on our driver trainer page. That's common among all trucking companies that expect a trainer-trainee team to run like a team. Okay, understand what I just said. If you are going to work for a company where the company expects the trainer and the trainee to work like a team instead of the trainer focusing on doing the training, okay, that can be a problem. All right, the company may very well be more concerned about covering miles than getting a well-trained trainee. In retrospect, here are some of the problems that Mike keenly remembers about training areas that he had light exposure to in trucking school, but which needed more practical application during training. All right, planning routes, okay? Even though we knew how to read a map, okay, and even though the driver trainer knew where he was going, he didn't really express or show Mike how to do training. And that, even though that guy had 5 years of experience on the road, he should have shared that knowledge with him. All right. He didn't show Mike how to balance a heavy load. In other words, how to adjust tandems or the kingpin, the slider underneath the trailer. Excuse me, you know, where the kingpin is. My husband will know what I'm talking about. I have forgotten the term. All right, Ken, the name of the driver trainer that was training Mike, didn't show Mike or test Mike, did not test him on how to do this on single or double trailers. Sliding the fifth wheel, that's what it's called. All right, the expectations about using a logbook. Okay, we knew how to fill out a logbook, but Ken didn't show Mike how to do that very well as far as being able to adjust it. And of course, you got to understand too that a lot has changed in the trucking industry as far as hours of service regulations are concerned. So it doesn't work the same way as it did when we started out in trucking in the early 1990s. But anyway, expectations about equipment maintenance and repair were never covered by Mike's driver trainer. Expectation about pre-trip and post-trip inspections was never covered. Okay, and of course that's going to be very important for anybody who's entering the trucking industry now because of the CSA requirements. And as if those items weren't bad enough, there was a classic example of knowledge that only Ken could have provided, but he didn't. Okay, and one of them was how to couple and uncouple a set of double trailers. Okay, and so when we got out on the road as a husband and wife trucking team, because my experience with the trainer had only been with getting up underneath dry vans, I had absolutely no knowledge about how to connect double trailers. And of course, when we were working with Swift, we were never given the opportunity to do triples, and with good reason, they're called wiggle wagons. But anyway, a lot of this stuff should have never happened to Mike. So Mike had this to say about the expectations of a driver trainee. If your trainer is being paid to train you, and he or she is, then he or she needs to train you thoroughly and answer your questions in a way that you will understand. If he or she is unwilling to answer your questions and help you get a good start, then you need to ask yourself why you should stay with him or her and not be assigned to someone else. The training you receive or fail to receive can either make or break you. And I will go as far as to say that when my husband Mike and I were in truck driver training school in the fall of the year, we started driving in the winter. Okay, and so that was a bit difficult for us. And the fact of the matter is, that first winter can be a very difficult one for driver trainees. By the way, if you are a driver trainer, please adapt some of this stuff for your own use. We've got plenty of information on our website that may help you to sharpen up your skills. My husband's given a lot of really neat stuff here. Okay, by the way, a driver trainer's goal for being in, and I will be addressing this next week, should not be just to make a bigger paycheck. Okay, if that's the only reason why you've become a driver trainer, you need to really find something else to do. Okay, so what will be expected of trainees? All right, in our opinion, trainees need to understand that OTR driving profession is not an occupation for the faint-hearted, but for those who are willing to work hard, be away from family and friends for days or even weeks at a time. And that's regarding regional or long-haul truckers, okay? Local drivers, it's a little bit different. A good driver trainer can or should lay out expectations regarding what to expect when it comes to freight, being alone on the road, taking care of personal business from the road, and dealing with other problems that you may face. There are some really good driver trainers who will give you their cell phone number with instructions to call them when you need some guidance about what to do when you encounter a sticky situation after you're done with your training period, okay? Trainees need to have a good idea of what it takes to get that load down the road with a minimum of problems and making all customers happy. And when we say all customers, we mean the driver or the fleet manager, the trucking company, the shipper who's counting on the drivers to make on-time pickups, and the receiver, assuming a load is taken all the way to its final destination and we're making on-time deliveries. So they need to also understand what they will be entrusted with, which is a rig that could be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $100,000, the trailer, and all the contents in both the tractor and the trailer. Okay, sometimes those loads are extremely expensive. They could be high dollar loads worth tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And when you get more experience, it could be even worth millions of dollars, like some of the loads that we have hauled. If you haven't already, adjust your expectations to needing to know about these things. When you have a high value load, it's a good idea to know some basic security procedures, and you need to know the proper way to apply seals and anything else that to deter a would-be thief from stealing your load. And we give some information about that on the page. All right, so I have on our mutual expectations page a list of various sheets that Mike, he basically put these together. He adapted them, and we're making them available to you. And we hope to assist both the truck driver trainers and the driver trainees to work through these mutual expectations and have some solid guidance on how training should be done. And I'm just going to list the names of these resources. You can look at the descriptions here. The coupling procedure record, the driver's orientation trip performance evaluation, the driving performance evaluation, mutual expectations, on-road scaling worksheet, student co-driver supply list, and the trip planning worksheet. Okay, my husband mentioned an improper use of a GPS. When we were in truck driver training school, we were taught how to read an atlas, and I still recommend that very highly. And whatever you do, as I've mentioned in the past broadcast, do not under any circumstances get a GPS that's not geared for commercial motor vehicles if you're driving a big rig. Okay, let me also mention before I wrap up, different people have different personalities, okay? And the way that you interact with your driver trainer is going to be critical. Okay, so for example, if you are, and I'm going to give you a basic list of what the personality types are, okay? A red lion personality, I'm giving you both the color and the animal. We refer to these from time to time. The red lion is interested in money, control, recognition, and power. This is one of your type A, drive type people, okay? And when I say drive, I'm talking about motivation and ambition, okay? They're very aggressive, straightforward, cut to the chase type people. Okay, your blue otters are the ones who like to have fun. They're around people, parties. They're very extroverted. Your yellow golden retrievers are about caring, nurturing, loyalty, team spirit, that sort of thing. They tend to be very compassionate, and they want to help. Your green beavers are very analytical. They like to know the nuts and bolts of things, data, research, how things work. They ask a ton of questions. I happen to be one of them. That's why I've written so much stuff on our website, because it's kind of like, let's break this down so that other people can learn from it. So when you have, for example, a yellow golden retriever who he wants to do a good job for the company, and he knows he needs to understand more about how to drive the truck, but he doesn't know how to answer the question. But the driver trainer is a red lion who is basically picking and poking and pushing and pushing. Okay, that yellow golden retriever can start to feel very condemned and very unworthy in the truck, and basically they just shut down like EW did, and that's basically a situation where he should have never done that. But anyway, the thing about it is sometimes when a driver trainer is pushing a driver trainee, okay, the trainee needs to know where the relief valve is, okay? If you are a driver trainee, learn how to get in touch with your trucking company, and if you are having trouble with your driver trainer, make sure that your driver manager knows about this. Okay, there is no excuse under the sun for you to go weeks and weeks underneath the training of someone where you're not getting it. Okay, and as a little aside, let me tell you that when I was in truck driver training school, okay, I had difficulty learning how to do the 90-degree alley docking. Okay, that backing maneuver where you're taking the truck around a 90-degree angle backwards. Okay, it was a big challenge for me. Okay, and one of the driver trainers in the trucking school, he said, well, you turn the steering wheel so much this way and so much that way and so much the other way, and you're in. And I'm like, that doesn't work for me, okay, because the thing about it is, well, first of all, the truck that I was in, okay, before they ended up getting one with a power steering, was manual, and it was everything I could do to turn the truck first to the left and then to the right and get the thing moved in. Anyway, we ended up with another driver trainer that came in there, a guy by the name of Shorty, and he said, look, follow your tandems. They'll never lead you wrong. And so when I got that information and obviously got into a truck that had the power steering in it, okay, I was able to eventually get it. But it wasn't until I got another guy teaching me on the pad. Okay, so back in those days, I was not nearly as aggressive as I am now as far as making sure that people understand what I'm asking for. Okay, so it was everything I could do to express to the people at the truck driver training school, look, I need more time, not on this particular type of training or that particular type of training. My need is on the 90-degree alley docking. And when I made that, when I expressed that, okay, I was able to get more training there. Okay. All right. Heads up, or shout out to Jason. Okay. Thanks for your comment about the team driving. Okay. And you're 21 years in the business. Okay. Wonderful that you want to be a trainer. Okay. If you have it within you to be a trainer, please go to the resources on our website about that. Some people are able to teach what they know, and others, frankly, they don't. Okay? Okay, I'll give you an example that's sort of out of the training thing, Jason. We went, Mike, I was riding with him. I was a passenger in the truck with Mike. He had a load, I think it was in New Jersey. Mike would be able to tell you. But anyway, we didn't know how to get there. Okay? All of that, and of course this was in the days before a lot of the GPS stuff was on the smartphones that we have now, and we had the atlas there with us. But the thing about it is Mike called the company, and they passed around the phone to 4 different people, and he said, how do we get to your location? Okay, we see where you are basically on the map, but how do we get to you? Okay, so in other words, there was, in that particular neck of the woods, and I don't remember where in New Jersey it was, but it's a pretty good sized receiver that we were going to, a lot of one-way streets, okay, one-direction streets. So we couldn't make a lot of U-turns and things like that. But the thing about it is when they passed the phone around, they said, well, we know how to get there in a car, but we can't tell you how to get there in a truck. So that being said, okay, if you have a lot of experience, that's great. And if you want to pass that knowledge along, that's great. Okay, just make sure that you're able to teach people in a way that they can understand. Okay, so one of the things that you can do as a driver trainer, and I'm going to be talking about this next week on Special Sunday, because this week's on the trainee, next week's going to be on the trainer. You can ask your trainee this: do you understand what I'm saying? Okay, I mean, that's a very simple question, but if you're using a lot of technical jargon that a trainee has never heard before, okay, the trainee could say, hey, wait, I don't understand. What do you mean? Okay, what's the difference between a this and a that? Or how do you know how many holes on the trailer tandem slide to move the truck back and forth? So anyway, do you understand what I mean? All right, so money saving tip. Think about your future as a trainee. If you're a driver trainee and you have no expectations regarding your training, you may not be getting everything that you need to succeed after your training period is over. And not only that, but you could actually fail your road test and be forced to seek employment somewhere other than the trucking company of your choice. Having a list of mutual expectations and clearly written guidelines with objective measures will help both you and your trainer. Okay, now, given the information that I've just talked about and the resources on our website, okay, as I mentioned before, a trainee could actually go into a training period with a trainer better armed with an understanding of what they need to succeed than the trainer is, okay? And in that respect, the trainee could actually be helping the trainer, okay, to be a better trainer. Jason, you said driver trainers should not be permitted to sleep on paper while driving. Okay, to be honest with you, when I was, and this happened with Mike too, when we first got on board with Swift, okay, both of our driver trainers slept in the sleeper berth while we were training. I remember one time I was coming down through northern South Carolina on I-85, and I'm not sure if it was a highway hypnosis type thing or not, but you got to understand that when a driver trainer is first starting out, their experience is going to probably be in a car, so they're not going to be focused on way stations. And I heard the sleeper berth curtain open, that Velcro crackling open, and my driver trainer said, "You're going to pull into the way station, right?" Okay, so in other words, here I was tooling down the highway, and I wasn't thinking like a trucker yet. Okay, so I'm glad that Bill, opened up that, because I would have gone right by it, and it's probably I would have had the flash and blue lights behind me. It's kind of like, I'm sorry, I'm in my training period. I'm not used to thinking like a trucker yet. So anyway, please feel free to put any other comments down here. Let me see if there's anything else. Okay, my husband put in a great one here. Research your companies well and find out which ones train, but only with the trainer up front and never in the sleeper, okay? And that's going to depend on what trucking companies are near you as well, unless you want to move or unless you're willing to travel or, take a bus or something somewhere. All right, you need to have nerves of steel to be a trainer, okay, to teach them. And feel free to look on our student drivers page for a real account. My husband was in the truck when we were in truck driver training school about what happened with a guy by the name of Steve. He had that deer in the headlights look one time, and he was forced to get out of the truck. But anyway, that was one of those nerves of steel, as my mother would call it, a white knuckle experience, where basically your fingers are grabbing into the dash. But anyway, that being said, please feel free to submit any comments or questions that you have. We want to be able to help as many people save time and money, and we have given, like I said, some of our very real experiences on our website and through these broadcasts. Okay, that being said, we've gone on for a while, and I appreciate all the feedback and comments. Please feel free to share this with your friends on Facebook if you found value in it. And until next time, my husband Mike and I wish you great wellness, purpose, and abundance, safe travels, and lots of money-saving opportunities on the road. We'll see you tomorrow night on Motivated Monday. Have a great night. Thanks.